Welcome to another episode of Just My Opinion podcast. And I'm going to have an article in the description box, and you guys can read it for yourself. But basically, an insider told Stephen A. Smith, and Stephen A. Smith told this story on First Take about the possibility of LeBron James returning to Cleveland. Now, we talked about it momentarily yesterday on Just My Opinion podcast. I suggest you guys go very briefly on yesterday's episode. I suggest you guys go check that episode out if you haven't already. But detailed in this article, as well as what Stephen A. Smith said on First Take, basically, the article implies that Dan Gilbert was told by others that's close and that are insiders in the Cleveland Cavaliers front office to ignore the temptation of what LeBron James said during All-Star Weekend, that he doesn't mind returning back to Cleveland. I'm here to tell you folks, Dan Gilbert does not want a third dance with LeBron James. And I'm going to explain to you guys later in this live stream. But basically, Dan Gilbert doesn't want any part of LeBron James. And like I said in yesterday's live stream, the possibility of LeBron James returning to Cleveland is really something. That window has already been closed from Dan Gilbert's perspective, from the Cleveland's front office perspective. The only one that is floating this story around is LeBron James, Clutch Sports, and Rich Paul. They want to paint a narrative that LeBron James is moving on. And this is the end game for LeBron James. He already talked about the possibility he wants to play in the NBA long enough for Bronny James to be selected in the NBA draft. And this is not going to happen anytime soon, folks. This is not going to happen next year or the year after that. The Dan Gilbert does not want a third dance with LeBron James. And they also talked about in this article that if LeBron James was on the Cleveland Cavaliers roster, this team will be favored coming out of the East. The Cleveland Cavaliers, without LeBron James, without a major superstar, a franchise player, and I know a lot of people are gonna name off a lot of rising stars of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they have a phenomenal roster, have phenomenal play. They have been drafting and selecting players pretty darn good as far as orchestrating this roster. But in this article, they stated that if LeBron James was in Cleveland, they would be the front runners of the East. The Cleveland Cavaliers, a couple of weeks back, were in position to be number one in the East without a major superstar, a franchise player, a difference maker. The Cleveland Cavaliers front office should get a lot of kudos, should get their flowers. The coaching staff, the head coach, should get a lot of kudos, a lot of flowers. And yes, Dan Gilbert, you should throw him some flowers and give him his kudos. Pat those folks on the back. They stood through the thick and the thin, they had more downs than up, but shortly but surely, they are they have a playoff spot, and anything can happen in the playoffs. A series win here, maybe a game or two later down the road, going into your favor. You never know. They could be representing the East in the NBA Finals. The article said that if LeBron James was with this young cast, they would be the favorites in the East. Well, if that is to be true, LeBron James is in year 19, then how come it was not true for the Los Angeles Lakers when they had their young cast, their young talent, their draft picks, and in free agency, and it feels like it's decades ago, LeBron chose the Los Angeles Lakers. How come it didn't work back then? You mean to tell me a younger LeBron James? You guys call him the GOAT. You guys call him the leader. You mean to tell me a LeBron James with a roster of Brandon Ingram, Alonzo Ball, Josh Hart? The list goes on and on and on and on. You mean to tell me he couldn't get that talent to the NBA Finals, at least be a representative for the West? Maybe if they just get a playoff spot, if they win a series and a couple of games go in their favor, you mean to tell me that Los Angeles Lakers roster could not be representatives of the Western Conference? They did have one problem. They had to deal with that Golden State roster that had KD. And at that particular time, they were not going anywhere. And that Golden State roster was nursing a lot of injuries. Steph Curry was in and out of the lineup. Draymond Green was in and out of the lineup. Kevin Durant had a nick here and there and basically was out of the lineup when it matters the most. That was deep in the playoffs. Klay Thompson. But you mean to tell me if the Los Angeles Lakers, Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, Rich Paul, LeBron James, you mean to tell me they couldn't just stay pat and just keep what they had? But LeBron, depending on who you believe, LeBron James, they say LeBron James orchestrated or pushed them to get Anthony Davis. Whatever it costs, just pay the bill. Or it was a Rob Pelinka move. But it explains why in detail when Magic Johnson had the helm. He didn't want to give up a lot for Anthony Davis. He wanted to keep some of that young talent. But LeBron was thinking otherwise. No, let's get AD. He's a clutch client. I can do some things with him. We can win a championship. Let's just pay the bill, no matter how much the bill is, no matter how many young talents we have to trade over and draft picks and mortgage our future. Let's do that. And that's why one of the reasons why Magic Johnson got exit stage left pushed out of the front office of the Lakers organization. Magic did not want to do that. Now, despite Magic Johnson's performance as player of operations, it wasn't a stellar record. If you take away all what he was unable to do, was incapable of doing, if you pull all that to the side, one of the best decisions Magic Johnson, he had made some stellar decisions as player of operations of the Los Angeles Lakers, but one of the best moves was not making a move at all when it concerned with Anthony Davis. He did not want to risk it for the biscuit, just give up everything for Anthony Davis. But Rob Pelinka had other plans. Jeannie Buss had to make this move because she was beefing with her brothers. She wanted total control of the Los Angeles Lakers. Even though Anthony Davis, if you look back at this trade, the Los Angeles Lakers gave up a lot. But this was more than a basketball move. This was more than a basketball decision. This was a power play move for Jeannie Buss. When you talk about her and Jeannie Buss and her family, well, the two brothers, this was also a power play move for LeBron James, orchestrating a move where you get your top clutch client to play alongside you. Maybe there'll be whispers through the hallways if this would have equal to multiple championships, the possibility of LeBron James seizing control of the Los Angeles Lakers. Y'all remember those rumors? They were floating around. And this trade also was the trade ultimately that Rob Pelinka made, and it pretty much pushed Earvin Magic Johnson out of the front office. Now, I don't care what Earvin Magic Johnson says. Well, he couldn't be player of operations of the Los Angeles Lakers. He was the type of player that would freelance and talk to other players around the league. He was the ambassador of the NBA. It just took too much time away from him managing his other successful businesses, not to mention to hang around his Hollywood friends and NBA legends and all that. It just took so much. He couldn't go on vacation with Cookie. Yeah, those are possibilities, but the real enchilada of why he's no longer player of operations of the Los Angeles Lakers is simple. Rob Pelinka pushed him out. He didn't have total control like he thought he did when the front office listened to LeBron James, and they had no choice but to make this move so LeBron James could be happy. And Jeannie Buss benefited from this move as well. But they got one chip out of it. They go up all that young talent, a lot of their future as far as rebuilding, just to win one chip. And a lot of people call it the bubble chip. A lot of people don't put a lot of sustain in it. I say every championship is created equal. Do we still remember them championships the next following year? No, we don't. Everyone forgot about the Toronto Raptors and Kawhi Leonard winning a chip, beating the Golden State Warriors. That was like decades ago in basketball years. Everyone forgot about that chip. Everyone has already forgotten the chip where LeBron James and AD in a shortened season, having 4 months off, the Los Angeles Lakers won a title. Everyone forgot about that title. It's like it was 5 years. It was like literally 7 years ago. That's in NBA years, dog years. And everyone has already forgotten the stench of the Milwaukee Bucks winning a championship. Everyone forgot about that. And now people are moving on and looking forward to who's going to win the championship this year. That seemed like that was so long ago that the Milwaukee Bucks won the title. Everyone's forgotten about that. And it just goes to show you about the NBA. It's always have been and will be about dynasties. Championship teams, the elite teams that win multiple chips, not just one, multiple chips. You're etched in history stone. And unfortunately, the Los Angeles Lakers, they're not that guy. Don't expect 10, 20, even 6 years from now, people still talking about that time when Los Angeles won a title in a shortened season with 4 months off. AD and LeBron won a title. Hell, Los Angeles fans, even though they're fair weather, but guess what? All fans are fair weather. You know, they still talk about the Kobe and Shaq era, Showtime in the Lakers era, somewhat Jerry West era, Wilt Chamberlain's era. They still are infatuated in those times. in those eras. Why? Because they won multiple titles. They still talk about those eras. Hell, Kobe and Paul Gasol, they talk about that era, even though it was a shortened era. They talk about that little dynasty more so than AD and LeBron James winning one chip in a shortened season with 4 months off in between seasons. That a lot of other teams were not interested in going into a bubble. A lot of players were not interested in going into a bubble. And they beat a team that lost both of their major stars. And it seems so long ago, even though it was 3 years ago, it feels like it's decades ago. People don't talk about that championship. Hardcore Los Angeles Laker fans do not talk about that championship. LeBron has already filled his resume, his thesis on leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. He's gone, folks. He's got 1 more year remaining on that contract. He's gone. He's gone. He is gone. He's not going to sign an extension with the Los Angeles Lakers because the Los Angeles Lakers, when it's all said and done and LeBron James move on to his next team, I don't know where he's going to go to, they will be rebuilding. And that's kind of what I was telling you guys and explaining to you guys yesterday. They have already put in the foundation of rebuilding right now. Jeannie Buss, that last game when the Lakers played the Pelicans, that was the worst loss in this season thus far. And it put a huge stain in the reputation of the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James and his legacy, you're down by 30 and LeBron still wants to be in the game because he wants to he's still chasing those individual achievements, those individual stats that really are not that important in the history of basketball. No one talks about individual stats and accolades and achievements. No one talks about who's the top assist leader in 2022. No one talks about who's the scoring leader, the top scorer in NBA history. No one talks about that. Individual stats are obsolete. No one cares about that. It never resonated in NBA history. What does resonate in NBA history is how many chips you have, how many times you've been into the finals, how many chips you won from those times you was in the finals, and how many times you was league MVP of the NBA finals. That's what counts. Nothing else doesn't matter in the National Basketball Association. We're talking about the NBA, not MLB. MLB, they gravitate around individual stats and achievements and individual like the strike leader and the home run leader. They glorify that stuff. Not basketball. Basketball never has, never will. It is what it is. So that loss to the Pelicans was so bad for the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James. Jeannie Buss left. Crowd was booing the Los Angeles Lakers. It gotten so bad, so heated, so it was embarrassing. If you was a Laker fan or a Laker player, or if you are in the front office of the Lakers, or if you're an owner of the Lakers, Jeannie Buss left, folks. LeBron James going back and forth with a fan. Talking about all you know is when the basket go into the hoop. Russell Westbrook, I'm about to say Russell Wilson, but Russell Westbrook going back and forth with a fan, talking about just go home. That was Russell Westbrook was telling the fan, just go home. I forgot the other guy that was supposed to come in and be this defensive stopper. Back when he was playing alongside Kobe and against Kobe, but not anymore. Saying the B word to the fan. It was so embarrassing. It wasn't the loss that they were, and they got beat with a Pelican team without Zion Williams, and the majority of those players that they traded for AD was on that roster that night, with the exception of Lonzo Ball, who chose greener pastures with the Chicago Bulls, but he's doing extraordinary things with the Chicago Bulls. Notice how everyone that LeBron has that played with LeBron with the Los Angeles Lakers are doing better without LeBron James. Even though the Pelicans are not going to be able to sniff a playoff spot or not even going to be in the play-in tournament, it's a huge achievement that they're doing. You can see the potential in the Pelicans. As long as they keep building on what they have, then you can see with the Los Angeles Lakers. Even if your team isn't going nowhere this year, you can still have a sliver of hope that the Pelicans can get their act right. Well, just a trade here, trade there. Maybe a free agent signing here, maybe a free agent signing there in the offseason. Maybe Zion Williams coming back. Maybe he's not at his full potential, but half of Zion Williams is better than no Zion Williams. We just got CJ McCollum. Who knows about next year? We might be the next Cleveland Cavaliers. We might be a force in the West. Who knows? Can you say that about the Lakers? The Los Angeles Lakers, the same players that they have this year are going to be the same players they're going to have next year. Definitely Carmelo Anthony is going somewhere else, or maybe he would retire. He experimented playing alongside LeBron James. It did not give him a championship. If he's chasing championships, he's going to go to a contending team that he can chase. He can sit on the bench and chase a championship. Which, by the way, Carmelo Anthony, was it 3 years ago, said that he's still a starting player, and he was kind of upset that teams slotted him in as a player to come off the bench, and he thought that was disrespectful for him. He's been doing it for the Lakers this year. He hasn't been starting a lot of games, and he did so with the Blazers and having a phenomenal season coming off the bench. Wow. Imagine that. Guess all those people that analyzed your performance and said, you know what, he's better coming off the bench as a starter. He will benefit a roster if he comes off the bench. I guess those guys were right. Those NBA aficionados, those NBA insiders, those NBA analysts were pretty much darn right. Let's give them their flowers. Give them their salutes. This is looking bad, folks, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. You'll have 1 year remaining with Russell Westbrook, 1 year remaining with LeBron James. I've talked about it yesterday. You can go check out that live stream yesterday. I'm not going to go too much into it in this live stream. But Jeannie Buss, in the offseason, it's your time to shine. It's your time to make a statement. If you do not make a statement type move, if you stay status quo, your legacy is gone as far as being an owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. I see the brothers prying on you on your weakest, darkest moments. Saying, well, if we was the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, we would not be this bad of shape. So there's going to be some bickering in the family. But if you want to make a name for yourself, Jeannie Buss, and stop riding the coattails of your dad, you got to decide. You got to put your big boy pants on. Your dad cut his losses with Shaquille O'Neal and traded Shaquille O'Neal. Traded him while the getting was good. And then you have some decisions to make. We're definitely rebuilding. It's just when we're going to start the process. If you wait too late, that really tarnish your reputation and your legacy. Because don't know Jeannie Buss personally, but I feel like she's the type of woman that wants to blaze her own trail. It's gonna be hard to blaze your own trail with this stain in front of you. Rob Pelinka, this is your last off season in the front office of the Los Angeles Lakers if you do not make a statement, bold type move or decision this offseason. It's paramount that you do something quick, fast, and in a hurry. You're not going to have a lot of teams interested in Russell Westbrook. I mean, they love to have that 1-year contract to to get that money off their books, but it's not going to be a trade where they're going to trade you their best star for Russell Westbrook. Nah. You have a 50% chance of getting rid of him in the offseason. You even have a greater shot of getting rid of him. And I said this in yesterday's live stream before the trade deadline. I think a lot of teams will be buyers for his contract if you still have him. I feel like more teams would call you as exploring the possibility of you trading Russell Westbrook to their team so they can get that money. But by that time, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers and you're still stuck with him, you might as well just see it through. 30 more games, we're not going anywhere anytime soon, and we can use that money and that cap room to maybe get somebody in the offseason. That's why I say when the season is done, when the playoffs are done, when the finals are done and we crown a new champion, or maybe the Milwaukee Bucks repeat, the moment that game is played, that's when the clock ticks for the Los Angeles Lakers. Jeannie Buss has to make a monumental move, a statement type move, same as Rob Pelinka. Otherwise, Rob Pelinka is not going to make it next season. Jeannie Buss she's already on the hot seat. That seat will be lightning hot if she still stays status quo. You guys also know that LeBron James is leaving. He's not going to sign an extension. He's not even focused about winning championships no more. He's more focused in securing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. He's more concerned about that and all these other individual stats and achievements that no one really truly celebrates in the National Basketball Association. LeBron James fans would glorify these individual stats in barbershop conversations, talking about he has to be the GOAT because look, he's got Kareem's record. How many people talk about Kareem when Kareem had the record? Huh? How many? How many barbershops you attended where the topic of the conversation is Kareem having the scoring title? How many people talk about that record? No one. No one. But LeBron James witnesses will make that a huge topic of conversation for years to come. This dumb argument that if LeBron James gets Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record, even though it took him 19 years to do it, somehow, some way that elevates him as the greatest player of all time. and this is dumb logic from Shaquille O'Neal, that Shaquille O'Neal has been filtering on social media, on YouTube, on Inside the NBA. Isaiah Thomas is echoing these sentiments, even though Isaiah Thomas has a grudge against the arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, because he didn't get selected in the Dream Team because no one liked him. No one liked him. It wasn't like it was a huge loss because they didn't select Isaiah Thomas to be on the Dream Team. You know that Dream Team they was going to pick the players based on who Michael Jordan wanted or who Michael Jordan would co-sign to. It's no different than when Kobe had that right, LeBron James had that right, Kevin Durant had that right. The next superstar will have that right. They're not just going to pick anybody. So yeah, that's all I got. I know it's 4 a.m. Nobody really watches live streams this early, but when this is popped up, you guys go check it out on the rerun. Remember, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share this content with your friends, family, and followers. If you want to become an official member, just hit that join membership button. Members will get exclusive things like badges and your chat lighting up and things of that nature. And I'm going to add some other incentives. Can you say that word right? Anyway, I'm gone. I'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.